Mark Raymundi for MMAfighting.com at Bellator 206 Media Day with Scott Coker, who is putting on one of the biggest fights in Bellator history on Saturday at SAP Center here in San Jose. Scott, the main event, Rory MacDonald, Gegard Mousasi for Mousasi's middleweight title. Biggest fight in Bellator history?
Boy, I would say so. I mean, this card is probably, one or two biggest fights in the history of this company, and easily could be on pay-per-view for $60, $70 here in the United States. So yeah, I would say it's a big fight, and it's a fight that the fans wanted to see, and that's why we're putting it on.
I was actually going to ask you about the card itself because there is a lot of depth here. There's Rampage Jackson versus Vanderlei Silva in the co-main event. There is the start of the welterweight Grand Prix between Douglas Lima and Andrei Koreshkov. As far as the depth goes, and including, of course, that big fight at the top, could this be the biggest card in Bellator history?
I think it is. I think that when you talk about where Rory's at in his career right now and where Gegard's at in his career now, I mean, it's a meaningful fight, and it has future implications on both sides. Rory, if he wins and he does great, he might fight in the welterweight tournament for us, but he might eventually want to go to 185, and Gegard might want to switch. I mean, who knows? I'm going to wait to see what happens at the fight, how they perform. We'll decide. But some people ask me, well, what are you going to do if he's a two-belt champion? He's got to defend one. Will you let him hold both? And so we're going to take that on a case-by-case basis, and that's what we're going to do.
How do you shuffle the deck in that regard too? Because Rory has this fight obviously on Saturday. We have no idea what's going to happen in that fight, and then he has to fight John Fitch in the opening round of the Grand Prix. How do you figure that out time wise?
Well, Rory's a fighter that likes to come back and fight right away. It's been us actually holding him back a little bit, going, hey, you need to relax. You're a young kid, you got a long career ahead of you. But in this situation, we're talking about late September, early October. He'll be ready by end of January, I think, and I think that's when we'll get him into the tournament, and he'll fight John Fitch at the end of January, maybe the beginning of February time frame, and then we'll try to finish the quarterfinals mid-February. April, May, let's say May, we'll have the other quarterfinals, and the finals will be in the summertime.
I feel like you guys have some momentum right now. There's this card. 2 weeks there is the semifinals of the heavyweight Grand Prix, and then of course the end of the year you guys are going to Hawaii. Yes. You have the finals of the heavyweight Grand Prix probably early next year. Momentum right now?
I feel it, and really what it comes down to is we're picking up free agents and we're building fighters from the ground up. Which is I think we're really good at. I did it last time when we were doing Strikeforce. It's like I think we're good star identifiers, star builders, and if you look at the young talent that we have up and coming with Picos and AJ McKees and Darian Caldwell is something that comes to my mind. There's just I can think of like 6, 8, maybe 10 fighters that will fit that gap that have been built for the last 2.5 years, and I think in the next couple of years you'll see them shine, and that's where I think the future lies, is that in these young kids, because they are the Daniel Cormiers. When I signed Daniel, he had no fights. When I signed Luke Rockhold, he had no fights. Tyron Woodley had no fights. I mean, it was it's cultivating these fighters to get them in a position where they can do their best, and I think that we're right there. And this fight card, top to bottom, is stacked. It's one of the best fight cards I've seen this year.
I want to ask you about Pico because he's very young in his career, obviously, and he's a top prospect for you guys. And on Saturday, he's fighting Leandro Higo, who is 18-4. He's fought for world titles before. You're not protecting Pico. This is a very tough fight, is it not?
Yeah, we're not protecting him. That guy's a killer, And so, at the end of the day, this is something that Aaron's camp feels that he's ready for. We felt like he's ready for it. He wanted to do it. He wanted to take that next step up, and and here we go. So it's been about a 2-year process, and you can't base it on his record because the record looks really lopsided. But here's a kid that's had how many wrestling fights and how many boxing matches, and I heard Freddie Roach is working his corner this weekend. So his boxing he's been taking people out with that body shot. He's at a very high level in boxing and another stratospheric level of wrestling. So, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup because, the submission game does he have it together enough to, fight him off? That's going to be the question. So, that's why we have the fight.
Pico told me today that a year from now he either wants to have the Bellator title or be close to fighting for a Bellator title. Is that realistic?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I think that he might even be able to advance that a little bit depending on how he does on this fight. But if he keeps winning, this is the business of you win, you'll get that next opportunity. And he's got some skills, man. This guy is really dangerous. So he was a prospect that was introduced to us, from the Zinkins and Bob Cook, and man, Bob just done us right. When we talk about the fighters he's introduced us to, not just in Bellator but in Strikeforce, it's like 98% batting average. It's pretty amazing.
Daniel Cormier's of the world.
I mean, this is what Bob said to me. He said, I got this fighter, you got to meet him, and we met right down the street here, and it was Daniel Cormier, and I was like, Daniel went up. I think he went to use the restroom or something, and I said, Bob, he looks kind of heavy. Is he a fighter? And he's like, he's a fighter, man. This guy could, like, I don't know if he could punch or kick but he's a wrestler and he's strong and he's, I think he could do it. So, the history speaks for itself. He became one of the greatest fighters of all time in martial arts. And the same thing, he said, you got to go sign Tyron Woodley. Bob was the first one that said, you got to go sign Ronda Rousey, right? He said, you got to go sign Luke Rockhold. Javier and Bob both said, you got to sign Luke Rockhold. We got this kid. And, then he said, you got to sign Josh Thompson. You got to sign. So their record's been amazing. So when Bob calls me, I always pick up the phone and I always listen to what he has to say.
Last few things, you guys announced a couple weeks ago that you're going to Hawaii for the first time, December 15th in Honolulu. Alima McFarland is headlining that card against Valerie Turno. Logistically now, there have been some issues, I guess. The UFC has not been to Hawaii. You guys are kind of beating them to the punch a little bit. Why is it so difficult to go to Hawaii, and why hasn't it really been done before by a big promotion?
You know what? Elite Exceed went there one time, like I want to say 12, 14 years ago before, actually we bought them actually. So, and the issue really is the time frame. That was the number one challenge. Is we have fights on Friday night or Saturday night, and they're on at 6 p.m. here. It means at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're asking the people, from Hawaii to be at the stadium, and it's just tough. The time frame was tough. But being in December, it's only a 2-hour difference, and we moved the fight time to 7, so it's 5 o'clock in Hawaii. So it makes it a little bit more palatable. But you have for many years you've had equipment challenges. Like I know the PGA, when they come in, or the NFL they would barge all their equipment in. When Spike TV did or Paramount did their show called Rock the Troops, same thing on Pearl Harbor. Same thing, they had to bring all their equipment in, on a big. Actually, they brought it in. I think they barged it in, barged it out. So the cost goes up, everything goes up, travel goes up, everything goes up. But we worked it out within our budget, and we're excited because Lima deserves to have a fight there. She's been bugging me since she became the champ, and to have Leo make his debut there, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think my staff is more excited about this fight than the people in Hawaii are excited about this fight. They're all ready to go.
It was reported this week that Primus will defend his title against Chandler the day before that on December 14th. Is that accurate, that report?
We're working on that fight, but where the location is, it's still up in the air. We're working on a few things, and I don't want to comment exactly where the options are, but it could end up on Friday somewhere in the country.
So it's December 14th somewhere. December 15th is Hawaii.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Got a crazy idea for you, Scott.
Yeah.
How about you do a doubleheader in Hawaii?
Well, that's definitely an option, but it's there's a lot of considerations and a lot of things that we're working on with the with the different organizations there in Hawaii to try to make some of this work. But hopefully we'll have an update soon. I hate to be cryptic, but it's just we just don't have it put together yet.
Last couple of things. The finals of the heavyweight Grand Prix. Do you know where and when that will be yet?
Yes, that'll be in LA at the end of January. So that'll be the heavyweight, and that'll be our once a year kind of end of January fight that we do at the Forum in LA.
And that'll be a DAZN show, I imagine.
That'll be a Paramount show.
Paramount show.
It'll be the heavyweight tournament. DAZN is featuring our welterweight tournament. So the heavyweight tournament will be on Paramount still, which is great because we'll have 15 fights on linear TV on Paramount, and then we have 7 events on DAZN. And then the European series that we have going in Europe will be a whole separate television package for Europe and different parts of the Middle East.
Last thing, Eddie Alvarez is a free agent from the UFC. Are you guys discussing anything with him right now?
I think that they had a conversation with Eddie, and I'm not sure where it's at, but it's. I don't think it took a second. It wasn't like something that was picking up any steam, so I'm not sure.
So it doesn't seem likely him coming to Bellator.
Yeah, it doesn't seem likely at this point.
Last thing. CM Punk is a guy that doesn't seem like the UFC wants to bring him back.
Okay.
He still wants to fight. Does
really?
Bellator have any interest in CM Punk?
I don't know. I guess I would have to go talk to my guys because we have Jack that we're getting ready, Jack Swagger, for his debut, and I think Jack's been training hard. Comes from a strong collegiate background in wrestling. collegiate wrestling, and this is something that we have invested in him, and he's training, and hopefully he'll be ready to go maybe first quarter of next year. And that's not just some, he really wants to do this, so he's really taking the time, and he's out wrestling and doing his thing. But he's putting his time in the gym, and we have a lot of hopes for him that he'll develop into something really strong in the MMA community or MMA space and as a fighter and make that transition. But I'm not sure. I'd have to talk to my guys about CM Punk.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, thanks.